Okay, in this video I'm going to be showing how to make a very simple and very easy to make slab plate. Mine's going to be a very simple shape. I'm going to use the following things. I have obviously some fresh clay. I've got a big old nasty bucket of slip there. Got a surface to work on that I can pick up and move around as needed. Got a couple rib tools, a plastic and a metal. Got an X-Acto blade, pokey tool, scrapey tool. We call this guy the Frank tool, but it's a little wooden rib, a sponge, a couple straight edges, and a piece of tag board. So this is going to be the size of my plate here. It's going to be a nice long rectangular shape. I've drawn a few lines on the inside. It's going to locate where the foot is going to be on the bottom of my plate here. So I've come in about 1.5 inches on all sides. So this is going to be the location of the foot on the bottom of my plate here. So the first thing I need to do is grab some clay, take it over to the slab roller, and roll out a nice slab. So let's go over there. Okay, so here we are at the slab roller. A couple things to remember when you're using the slab roller. One, it's always good to have something to go down in between the table and the little rolling cloth that comes across here. One, if we used to do this when you put it down here, sometimes your clay will get stuck and you'll have to pull it off, which is always a bad thing because clay has a memory. If it's flat and you want it to stay flat, you should never try to peel it off the table because it'll curve the clay, and if you push it back down when you put it in the kiln to fire it up, it will start to curve again. So we want to try to avoid that warpiness by putting something down. Now usually we use a thin piece of canvas, but for right now I think just a thin piece of paper here is fine, something that will keep a little separation between the cloths here. Alright, so I've got a piece of clay here. The thing I want to remember when I put this down is that you want to make sure that your clay is at least as wide as your piece that you want to come out, because this roller is really not going to push it out too far this way. It's really going to stretch it out this way. So as you can see, I'm just wide. I'm probably going to make this go this way here. So I'll put the clay that way so we know that I'm going to be at least that wide, and now the clay will stretch the clay out this way. So hopefully I'll get my length here, which I think I should with this amount of clay. So when you put this down, especially with a piece of paper like this, set it down here and then fold this over the top. Try not to put any crinkles or cracks in this because that will show up in the clay. I'm just going to put that over the top here. And it's also good as well to kind of help your roller out here just by kind of tapering that edge down so when the wheel comes down across it, it doesn't really bite too much. It's got something that can easily roll across. So what I'm going to do, put this over the top here, and then go ahead and get this guy spin nice and slow across. Letting that clay move. There we go. It's coming out the end there, but that's totally fine. I'm probably not going to use that much anyway. And then we'll just go ahead and pull this guy back. You can see I came out the edge of my paper there, but that's totally fine. You can see that wet mark there. If you get too much wetness, your clay will stick. Alright, so I'll peel the paper back here. You see we have a nice smooth piece of clay. Once again, I don't want to peel this off because it will rip. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and put my template down. So I want to go ahead and just cut off the pieces that I don't need right now. So I'm going to use a pokey tool here, keeping my template flat against the clay. Just going to go ahead and just go all the way down through here, all the way around, trying to keep it as tight to my template as possible. As well, keeping that template flat. This will curl up since it's on wet clay. It wants to curl some, so try to keep it flat against the clay. If you're afraid to go on, this is all going to be scrap around here anyway. So, pick up these and this. Keep these scraps because we're going to use them later on. Okay, now here's the best part about having the paper underneath is that when you're done, instead of trying to peel that up, all you really need to do is just kind of pick up the paper. And I want to have this close by so that I can just stick this right on, like that. Okay? When it dries out, I can work on that as well. Okay, so then I've got my flat piece that this is going to be my actual plate that I'm going to work with here. Now I also need to roll out some clay for the foot. The foot's going to be really long. It's going to go all the way around the middle here like this. So that's what these scraps here are for. Once again, I can just get a couple of these together. I'm just going to take them and kind of wedge them into a nice tight ball here. that out, try to get as much of the air out as well. And for this one I just need some long strips. I'm not going to worry about the paper because I don't mind if these bend too much. I'm not trying to keep these flat. So I'm just going to take a long piece like this. This is going to be far more than I ever would need. But better to have too much than not enough. I'm going to go ahead and stick that on there. Roll this guy out. Once again, I don't really need paper for this. Bring this guy back. And this should give me what I need for the foot. So I'll cut some strips out of this to put on the bottom there. Okay, let's head back to the main work table. Okay, so I brought my slab back to my table here. As you can see, I've got all the paper out from underneath it. All I did was just take another bat, put it on top, turn the whole thing over, tear the paper off, and you see I got a nice smooth surface to work here. That's what you want. You don't want to see any dents or indentations. You want a nice flat surface to work on. And once again, you don't want to in any way peel this, or as you're transferring it, let it sag and do like that, because once again, when you fire it, even if you flatten it out, clay has that memory and it will start to peel up again. So the more you can leave it alone, the flatter you can make it, the better off you're going to be. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lay out the points for my feet that I'm going to put on the bottom of this. You can see, as I've already put on here, I've measured out this little interior rectangle. So all I'm going to do to kind of lay this out is to set this back on top. By the way, I've let this clay to kind of dry out a little bit more, so it's not quite so elastic. It's not quite leather hard, but still workable. So all I'm going to do here is just take my pokey tool and just put a couple of indentations through the paper here that show where this is going to be in the clay. Here, each corner, and I might put one in the middle here too, just so I can line everything up. Don't go too deep, just some points here so I can see where this is going to go. Okay, so these strips are going to run along here along the edge, so I can set this off to the side for right now. Here's that piece that I rolled out nice and long. Before I cut this up, I'm just going to take my rib tool. Since I didn't use paper on this, it's got a little bit of a texture on it from the canvas. I'm just going to take my rib tool here and nice and flat, just kind of gently rub this back and forth just to kind of get rid of any kind of texture. I want this to be nice and smooth. So this gets rid of any kind of imperfections. I'm barely touching, just a nice gentle back and forth just to smooth everything out is all I need. Okay, that's pretty good. There we go. Alright, so try to figure out basically I'm going to have two long strips that run down here along the edge. A width, so I went and found one of my rolling sticks here, and this is going to be the width of each foot, so I just need to basically cut out two strips of these. So I'm just going to set this along the edge here like that, nice and flat. Use my X-Acto blade again, keep that right along the edge. Don't cut your fingers, like I almost did there, along that edge, and then on the other side as well. Keep that blade right against the wood. So that'll be one strip. I can get rid of this. I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to need that. I'm just going to come over a little bit further, so I don't want to really do these side by side. I'm just going to put a little spacer in between them. Be plenty of room. Again, keeping that blade close, spreading your fingers out wide so that this does not move as you cut. And coming down the other side as well. Okay, so that I've made both cuts, I'm going to go ahead and peel this edge off as well. Don't need this. Save that for later. You can see, once I get rid of this middle one here, without disturbing those two too much, I've got my two strips I'm going to use for this. Okay, so bringing back this guy, I'm going to go ahead and score this slightly. So keeping down this line here, all I'm going to do is just using my score tool, come in here and just put a couple of marks running along the edge here. Just try to follow that line, and down here as well. Okay. Made a little goober there, that's alright. then I'm going to turn these guys over very gently. The bottom side still has that texture on it. I'm not worried about that too much. You're not going to see it. Alright. And then I'm going to go ahead and score these guys on the bottom as well. Don't need to go very deep on this. This clay's still pretty wet, so it should have a nice bond. Alright, so how long they should be, if I measure on here, we're about 9 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these guys off right at 9 inches. So they're both exactly the same length. Where's my X-Acto? Either one of these will work, so cut that guy off right here. There we go. And 9 inches here. Just like that. Okay, so now it's just time for a little slip. And these guys can go on. So I've just taken some used clay, added a whole bunch of water, and I really feel like it never hurts to just go crazy with slip. I'm going to clean most of this up anyway. Makes a nice bond. As long as you can see your start and stop points, most of this is going to get cleaned up. So, a whole bunch of slip on there. Very gently picking these guys up and setting them in place. I try to find my original holes that I poked through here and make sure they line up right with the hole. Giving these guys just a slight amount of pressure. I don't want to push these too much. They're still kind of elastic, so I don't want to really hurt these too much. Just kind of get them in place now, and then I'll let them dry a little bit, and I'll come back and really kind of shape them into the things that I want here. So, take on this side, finding the holes that I started with here. Lining it up from above, seeing how it looks. And then just some gentle pressure down as well. Again, these are not the final result that I want, but right now it's just getting things in place. Okay. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll come back later on and I'll start snaking everything together. So there's where we are right now. Okay, I've let my plate dry out some. These are not quite as elastic as before. And what I want to do now is kind of clean this up. I don't like how the feet come straight perpendicular out of the plate. It kind of comes over and straight up again. I'd rather have a nice smooth arc going up. So what I'm going to do is add some snakes to the sides of each little foot here. So I wrote out some thin snakes. What I'm going to do here is just put them on the inside and kind of smush them down in, so it creates a nice little flat up and down. I might leave the ends kind of flat and put a little design there as well. So these don't really require too much slipping and scoring. I think just to kind of get the inside wet is fine. Just some moisture in there, so I'll just run it along the edge here like this. Come back and apply one of the snakes along here, just till it kind of sticks in. Gentle pressure. That, and then come back and just slowly just kind of keep running your finger along it until it starts coming into the diagonal here, like this. Now here, if you want to use the Frank tool, this is a good opportunity. It kind of gives it a nice smush and kind of pushes everything together. Just using that on the diagonal as well. Just coming in here and trying to join these two together. So I'm going to go ahead and do this for all 4 sides until they're all kind of smooth and have a nice arc going up the side. So I'll speed this up now. Alright, so I've gone through and smoothed everything out on both sides. You can see now we have a nice even groove with these little pointy things that come up. I'm just going to go through and I think I'm going to put a little stamp on the end of each one of these. So just taking a little end of this knife tool, I'm just going to come down here and just put a little indentation just to kind of finish off the end. A little decorative bead, so come in here and just going to push that in there. Kind of covers up some of the messiness, but also gives it a little decorative piece, so it's a little unique. Alright. Not too shabby. So you see I've got nice decorative ends there. Everything's smoothed out. I think what I'll do now is go through and let this dry a little bit, and once it's dry I'll come back and kind of sponge over everything here to kind of smooth everything out. So I'll let this dry for, I don't know, about half an hour or so. I'll come back. This guy is dried out to, it's still a little elastic, not quite leather hard stage yet. The last thing I want to do here before I kind of clean up the entire bottom here is you can see here that my edges are pretty sharp on the edge of the plate. It's the same thing. So what I want to do here is go around and just kind of thin out the edges of my plate a little bit so it's not quite so thick and bulky. I'm going to use this just real simple roller that you'd use for printmaking. I'm just going to kind of take it on the side here and just kind of roll out the edge just slightly so it has a little bit of bevel to it. So trying to keep in line with the edge of my foot there. Just going to come back in here and just kind of roll this guy back and forth. Thin this out just slightly on all four sides. There we go. Now to kind of clean everything up before it dries to a leather hard state and I can flip it, I'm just going to take a damp sponge and wrung all the wetness out of it, and I'm just going to go over this very quickly, all the edges, and smooth everything out. So we'll speed this up as well. Okay, this is pretty smooth now. Just spit on it. Okay, this is pretty smooth now. I'm just going to let this dry until it gets about leather hard. Then once it's leather hard, I can go ahead and flip the whole thing over, and then I can work on the top side. Alright, come back then. Alright, I've come back the next day and my plate is completely dried out now. I can go ahead and use a sponge to kind of clean up the edges here a little bit on the other side. You can see it's kind of gotten to that leather hard stage where it's a lot easier to work with. It will support its own weight when I turn it over. If it's flimsy in any way, it's best to just weight it out and then flip it over later. I've also got my rib tool here. There's just a little bit of texture from this bat, so I'm going to come through here and just very gently just kind of smooth this out. I want a nice smooth surface to work on later on, so coming through here and just trying to get rid of all that texture. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do here before I let this dry completely out is I'm going to go just curl up the edges a little bit. So very gently on all the sides here, I'm just going to barely gently just kind of curl these edges up. I want it to have a slight bevel coming towards the inside. I don't want it to sag down at all, so I'm just going to come through here and really gently. Don't want to do this all at once, just little bits at a time. Curl those edges up ever so slightly. Just if there was anything that had any kind of liquid on this plate, it would not just fall off the edge. That's what we're going for here. Just the edges, just barely up. And once I've done that, this plate is ready to dry out. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to add a little stencil design here using the Amiclo Underglaze series glazes. We'll put a little stencil on this and we'll fire it up. Thanks for watching.